Texas unveils designs for a new psychiatric hospital in San Antonio. An Alamo City climate plan stirs support and concerns. And an undocumented immigrant who illegally voted in San Antonio gets 30 months in prison. This is your Express Briefing podcast for Friday, January 25th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. And get each day's top news and sports headlines delivered to your inbox at expressnews.com/newsletters. State officials are planning to build a brand new $320 million San Antonio State Hospital at its same South Side site, with construction set to start next year and doors opening in 2023. However, despite the plans, there's not yet funding for the project. The legislature dedicated $300 million in the 2018-19 budget, including $14.5 million to plan the replacement for the San Antonio Psychiatric Hospital, and Texas lawmakers are in the early stages of writing the next state budget that could again dedicate $300 million to state hospital projects. San Antonio's current 300-bed facility is a relic from an era where the mentally ill were essentially warehoused, and includes numerous buildings, with some that date back to 1892. And a 2014 structural analysis found that 80% of the facility was in critical condition. No decision has been made about demolishing the current facilities, and it's possible some of the newer buildings could be repurposed. The new San Antonio State Hospital is part of a sweeping state plan to update nearly half of the state's 10 aging psychiatric hospitals and meet growing patient demand, and calls for grouping patients into smaller units, separated by open-air courtyards that let in natural light and allow patients to go outside. Preliminary estimates put the cost of the proposed new 296-bed hospital at about $320 million, but that number could change. Even before its release, a new plan that aims to put San Antonio on a steady path to reduce greenhouse gases that contribute to global climate change is already being criticized as too weak or possibly too costly to businesses and consumers. The draft Climate Action and Adaptation Plan outlines what the city, its utilities, and San Antonians can do to decrease dependence on carbon-based fuels, recommending 5 major categories of changes that extend from greater use of electric vehicles to more energy-efficient building codes. If adopted, the plan would make San Antonio one of dozens of cities worldwide seeking carbon neutrality by 2050, with the city cutting greenhouse gases that trap and hold heat in the atmosphere at a rate of 3% annually to reach the goal. During an update Thursday to the City Council's Community Health and Equity Committee, several council members voiced concern about costs that could be incurred by home builders, home buyers, the city, or other public or private entities. But some environmentalists and others feel the plan should go even further, aiming for abandonment of coal as a fuel by CPS Energy by 2025 and local carbon neutrality by 2040. Businesses, meanwhile, have been worried about effects of climate change on their supply chains, working conditions for employees, and future water and air conditioning costs, a concern that seems to be a common thread. The plan is now subject to a 30-day comment period and possible final consideration by the council in April. Other Texas cities, including Austin, Houston, and Dallas, have similar plans in place or in development. And an undocumented Mexican immigrant who lived for years in a rural San Antonio suburb has been sentenced to 30 months in prison for using a stolen identity to vote in U.S. elections. 75-year-old Enrique Salazar Ortiz of Elmendorf pleaded guilty in October to charges of making a false statement in a passport application, unlawful voting by an undocumented immigrant, and aggravated identity theft. The State Department discovered Salazar's identity theft scheme when he mailed an application in December of 2016 to renew a passport he had been using over the prior 10 years. A fraud prevention manager referred the application to the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service because the Social Security number being used had been issued later in life, which is unusual. During the investigation, agents determined there were 2 people with the same name and date of birth, but with different appearances, including the real individual who had previously lived in San Antonio. In August of 2017, agents then raided Salazar's home and arrested him. While Salazar only admitted casting a ballot in the 2016 general election, Bexar County records show a man using the name and date of birth of the former San Antonio resident voted in every general election for the past 24 years. After serving his 30-month prison sentence, Salazar is scheduled to be deported back to Mexico. And that's your daily San Antonio Express briefing for Friday, January 25th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts.